On day 21, the final day of the stack, as we had talked earlier, we had gone through the foundation. In the first week, we'd gone through the code. The second week, and now here we are on the stack in the final portion in the power focus. It entails a series of questions, and the first question we ask is, what was the original story, right? What is the original story that triggered us into this drift and created the emotions, right? And once you've established or reestablished, as we had earlier in Release the Rage, the original story, uh, then the follow up to that is, what is the evidence you have to prove that is true? And really, we want to take on the role of an attorney, so to speak, in this, and we want to prosecute this. So we want to look for the evidence that the story is true, because there is no right and wrong story in this. We just want to take a perspective, and why do we believe that's true, or what is the evidence that indicates that this in fact is the story. The second question we're going to ask is, what is the me version of the story? And when and you do that by flipping the words, right? If Bob kicked my dog, you can take a person, or Bob doesn't like dogs, put it. Um, what is the me version? If you make a statement such as, and it would be the opposite, or the me version of that is like, I don't like dogs, right? And at that time, you do the same thing. You seek to prove that that opposite view, or it's not the opposite, but the different view is also true. And there is evidence uh, that that's also true. And what you do is you go ahead and list it. You list the evidence that shows that you, in fact, don't like dogs. And the third question that you ask is like, what is the opposite version of the story? And once again, you do as an attorney would do, and you provide the evidence that perhaps the opposite in that is true. Perhaps Bob loves dogs, and you go ahead and seek the evidence, and you answer that question. What is the evidence that the opposite is true? And once you start doing some of these, you're going to see that the reality opens up, right? You can have, quote, alternate realities, because there is evidence for for multiple views. And the follow up to that is follow up question to that is, what is the desired version? Uh, so what is it, if you could pick uh, a version of that entire situation, what would it be? What is the desired version? And once again, after you've picked that desired version, you provide the evidence, or you list the evidence that true that is also true. And that process we call walking the block, right? We walk north and get a view of the north version. Then we turn east and we get a vision, or our perspective of going east. And then we turn south and we get a perspective of the south. And we turn west and we get a perspective of the west. So the process is called walking the block, and the object is to get the perception, all of which are true, and have evidence to back them. But really, what it does is open up a perspective. Um, so after you do that, uh, you have the opportunity to actually choose of those versions. You actually have the opportunity to choose the version of the story that will actually get you what you want, right? So once you choose that version, and for me, it always ends up, what is the desired version? Because I can look ahead and say, okay, this is the desired outcome. I don't want Bob to hate dogs, although him loving dogs would also get me what I want, and I would have an appreciation maybe for Bob. But you have the opportunity to create the desired version. Once you choose the version that will get you what you want, ask yourself the question, why? Why have I chosen that version? And typically, the answer will be centered around, because it will get me what I want. Many variations of that. Um, so once you get that, and you've related it to being a supporting story for you to get what you want, then it's time to make a commitment. What are you going to do with that story? What are you committed to do in the next 48 hours uh, to act on that new perspective, or that perspective that you've just discovered or created? And like all things and like all questions, the why is super important, right? The follow-up question to that is why? Why do you want to do anything at all, right? And typically the answer is going to be somewhere in the I don't want to stay in this drift. I don't want to stay in this darkness. I've stopped the drift. But in order for you to come out of a drift, to get any lift at all, you have to take some action. And to motivate and push through to actually accomplish the action, there has to be a why. So that follow-up question is the why you're going to do it at all. And the follow-up is how are you going to know that it's done, right? There has to be a definitive, it can't be I'm going to try harder. It has to be a definitive thing that once you've done it, that it has a definitive answer. And here you're asking yourself the question, how will I know it's done? Like I have actually taken the answer, like I have positive, uh, I've taken positive answer to draw the lift. So that's our conclusion of our day 21. As always, the assignment is to teach this. If you can't teach it, you don't know it. If you don't know it, you can't live it. Follow through on the remaining items below, and we will talk to you tomorrow on day 21.